learning about hackathons. Again, my name's Jeff. I'm with Sketch City here. Some of the organizers include Meredith and Randy, and other people that are not here tonight. We have another event coming up tomorrow night around the design of a hackathon project. But this is really just Hackathon 101. Like, what is a hackathon? What do you expect? How do you get involved? How do you get started? How many people know what a hackathon is? Okay. Some people don't. Okay, so let's say a hackathon is more like a marathon. So it's a time constraint. Our civic hackathon is coming up May 20th and 21st. It's 24 hours long. That doesn't mean that you have to be up for 24 hours. You don't get locked in a room. Everybody there runs the ages from 8 to 80, male, female, of all different nationalities. It's really interesting to see people come together. And our hackathon is centered around civic tech. So things that we can do with public data and things, apps and websites and campaigns that we can do that will improve quality of life in the city of Houston. So we get a lot of people from the city of Houston on board, pitching project ideas, saying, hey, it would be really cool. I work in the Department of Neighborhoods, and it would be really cool if we had X. We've been doing the hackathon this is going to be our 5th year, and hundreds of people show up. It's really a lot of fun. Usually there's about 20 to 30 projects, and the projects are produced by teams. So typically, when you show up, you may have a team, you might not have a team, but basically you're going to make a whole bunch of new friends all at once. So before we get started kind of talking and doing some Q&A about the hackathon, I want to point you to a couple of websites that will answer a lot of questions that we're going to refer to throughout the evening tonight. First is HoustonHackathon.com. Pretty self-explanatory. But on this site, you'll find the RSVP link, you'll find our upcoming workshops, and you'll also find a project ideas link, which is really important because as you start to think about the things that you want to work on, or as you come up with new ideas, that's where you want to go. The next site that you want to go to is our meetup, or I'm sorry, our website, which gives you a list of all the different ways in which you can get involved. You don't have to join everything. We're not going to pull you into the pool. We're not going to ask you for money, although Sketch City is a 501c3 and we do accept donations. But there's lots of different ways that different people want to be involved. We've got about 2,500 different people involved in various capacities. Some people come to the meetups. Some people can come during the week and some people can't come during the week. Some people are only on Slack. We have one of our projects, our air quality Twitter bot, is developed by somebody who lives in Japan. He lived in Houston when he built it, but now he lives in Japan, so we stay in touch over Slack. We collaborate with code on GitHub, we communicate on Slack, and we meet up in person. Basically, there's lots of different ways to get involved, and we have lots of different kinds of nerds in this community. Going to sketchcity.org kind of gives you the blueprint there. All of our events go through the meetup, so you can kind of see what's coming up. We do a weekly hack night. Sorry, I'm giving you the download. We're going to go right to Q&A. We do a weekly hack night every Tuesday where we get together on a different theme. Leading up to the hackathon, it's all about the hackathon. But after that, we're focused on homelessness. We're looking at immigration issues. In the past, we've done things on refugee assistance, the environment, democracy, public health, transportation, you name it. Like, we've pretty much mined a lot of territory, and we're always looking for more ideas and more interesting speakers. At those weekly hack nights, we have lightning talks, and then we break out into groups and we brainstorm ideas. And sometimes we work on the ideas, but for the most part, it's kind of social. Then on the weekends, we'll have events like this hackathon workshop number 6 here, where it'll be about 4 hours, and we actually go through some intense learning about something, either intro to R. In this particular one, I think we're using a couple of different tools around web scraping. So meetups where you can find all that.
I have a quick question
Sure.
about the Saturday things. Do you guys tape those, record those?
We should, but we don't yet. We're just getting our sea legs with the live streaming and the recording. But that's something that's on the horizon for sure. Yeah. So the next thing to look at is that ideas link gives you, this is not our ideas site, let me find it. It'll take you to our GitHub repo where you can actually browse a giant list of ideas. And these are things either that are suggested by people who are subject matter experts but don't have technical expertise. They say, hey, it would be cool if we had X. And it's also suggested by people with technical expertise who are looking to build a team and they have an app idea. This is the place where you can chime in on these threads and say, hey, I want to work on this, branch off into a Slack channel, publish your code on GitHub. It's all kind of turnkey in there. So if you're at a loss for ideas, you're like, hey, I just want to kick around a bunch of different things and see what sticks, going to our project ideas repo is where you want to go. And then finally, if you go to sketchcity.herokuapp.com, you can sign directly up to our Slack, of which there are 17 users now online. So that's the big download. What I'd like to tell you for the next 2 minutes, and then just have an open discussion, is kind of how it goes at the hackathon, what it's like to show up, what it's like to go and participate, and then what it's like to present, and then what happens afterwards. So of those of you who know what a hackathon is, how many people have ever participated in a hackathon before? A couple of people, all right. College hackathon, or?
It was just in London. It was like I think it was sponsored by an insurance company.
Fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I couldn't hack.
This is an entry-level hackathon. This is a hackathon where roughly a third to half of the participants have no technical expertise. Sometimes they have policy expertise. Sometimes they have just general like user experience expertise so they can go out and talk to people. But for the most part, you've got some serious technical nerds, and then you've got a lot of other people. And we try to make it as easy as possible for those folks to commingle. We try to teach the technical people how they can leverage the skills of the people who aren't technical. And we try and queue up projects that are what we call shovel ready, something that you can just get started on right away, and that by the end of the hackathon, you can have something to show, and that people would actually potentially use it. So the hackathon starts at noon. We have a morning coffee ahead of time where people can kind of get to know one another. Then we have a little bit of opening talking for about 15 minutes. Then we do a team formation exercise. So if you came with a team, you can go somewhere else into the venue and get to work. But if you don't have a team, you can do this icebreaker exercise where people with skills talk about the skills they have, and people with ideas talk about the ideas that they have. And generally speaking, over the course of 15, 20 minutes, teams naturally coalesce and come together. And sometimes the project idea fails after a couple of hours, and the teams disperse and go join other teams. But for the most part, if you're there for 24 hours, you're going to get some serious work done. We try to make sure we have a staff of volunteers that tries to make sure that there are no loose ends, there's no flyaways there. If you look lost, somebody's going to put their arm around your shoulder and guide you towards the team. They're going to ask you what skills you have and what do you care about. Those are the two things that you should really have at the tip of your tongue. What skills do you have? Not just what do you program, or I'm a designer, but I can keep things on task. I'm really good at assembling presentations. I'm a good writer. I'm really good at going and talking to customers and channeling their ideas. There's lots of different skills that you might have. So knowing those things offhand is very helpful. And then basically just being able to get the project done. So after you form your teams, it gets really quiet for about 20 hours. You work. Usually we have the venue open all night. We're deciding whether or not we're going to stay open all night. This year, if we don't, we're going to close at midnight and open back up at 7 in the morning. And then through the last, say, 2 or 3 hours of the event, people rush to put together their presentation. Everybody gets a chance to present, usually 2 to 3 minutes at the end of the event, which is around 1 p.m. on Sunday. The mayor shows up, many staff members show up, his chief of staff shows up, council members all love to make a speech. So everybody's tired, and all the elected officials love to come in and talk. But it's really a lot of fun because you get to show the things that you build to the people who can actually implement them. What we do in our hackathon is our top 3 finishers get to polish their presentation over the course of a month and then meet with the mayor in the mayor's office for 20 minutes. So it's really a lot of fun. If you are pursuing an idea that you think is particularly interesting, you can speak truth to power. You get to go in and sit at his conference table and look him right in the eye and talk to him about the project. We had somebody who talked about 311 last year and had some pretty uncomfortable conversations about 311's response time. So there's a lot of incentive into doing something that matters because you're going to have a chance to show people and people who have power what you've In previous years, one of the winners was an app that tells you, automatically looks up where you are and tells you your recycling day and your heavy trash day. It's called Rollout. It sends you a push notification the night before or the morning of to remember to roll out your cans. We've had data visualizations of the city budget. We've had blight trackers. We had an app for the Houston Police Department that Randy worked on, what was it, 40 years ago? 15 years ago?
So it seems like.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Seems like a while ago. So there's been over 100 different projects that have come out of these hackathons, and I'd say about 90 of them are terrible, and that's okay. It's okay to put out a terrible hackathon project. The purpose is going through the exercise of seeing it from start to finish. It makes you a better developer. It makes you a better project manager. It makes you better interpersonal relationships with people that you might not like. It's really a great way to just kind of exercise your business skills and your technical skills. So I'm going to stop the hard sell in the hackathon. Hopefully you all are convinced to show up. What questions can I answer? Yes?
These projects, are they revealed the same day or are they already up?
Are they what? Are they already up?
Are they revealed the same day?
Oh, no. They're already up there.
They're already up.
Frankly, we're going to continue brainstorming more projects up to the hackathon. You can get started before the hackathon. We only judge what you complete at the hackathon, but if you want to get started on something because it's a big lift and you scope out a hackathon project within that, that's totally fine.
And the stakeholders will be talking again?
The stakeholders meeting,
Will there be?
yes. So we're going to be in
So some will be revealed on the day of.
potentially, but we're asking them to file it all through GitHub ahead of
Okay.
time. We'd really love to get their brains out on paper rather than, just take their chances. Last year we had a great project related to human trafficking where we had this kind of all-star team of people that came together and scraped these sites that are like Yelp for sex trafficking. And they worked with Houston Police Department vice officer, they worked with some folks at Children at Risk, and they did really great data analysis around who goes to these sex parlors and what kind of language do they use, what can you derive about the place itself. Is it behind a deadbolt lock? Do you get buzzed in? All this stuff that the cops would want to know if they were going to make an arrest. So that came together last minute at the hackathon. People just kind of showed up and said, I want to work on this. We want to get more projects like that and funnel people into the GitHub.
And shameless plug for tomorrow night, that winning team that he just talked about is the team that's going to be presenting at the AIGA Sketch City event. So if you want to hear more, kind of an interactive case study about that specific project, come back to me. Not here at the Iron.
Yeah. So did that answer your question? Yeah. Cool. Awesome. What else? Why do you come here? What piques your curiosity about the hackathon? It's a tough question. So.
I have trouble visualizing how the team comes together. You know, if you have hundreds of people showing up, then going around and doing introductions.
Oh no, we don't.
Okay, that was my impression. Then.
Sure.
So,
May I?
Sure.
I just, Jeff figures out some type of game.
Huh.
And last year's game was basically Red Rover, come over. So the people get up and present the ideas. Plus the ideas have been presented online already. So you give a quick presentation of your idea.
30 seconds.
So that people see who you are. And then last year, the people who had presented and had ideas lined up on one side, the people with skills or of any kind, which may just be, man, I just like to sit at tables and eat breakfast and line up on the other side. And then they go to the middle of the room and form groups and then they go to a spot, either in that room or other rooms that are available, and they begin to hack, and those of us who know who the other people are, migrate around this place, and are also there for people to come and find us. And like last year's team, there was one team that about midnight figured out that they did not have a coder on their team. So we figured that out. There was the homeless team, which had a tremendous lot of people, and I think there was a certain expert from with the homeless community.
Melanie.
Melanie, who's with Salvation Army, not the one that's across the way, but with Salvation Army in general. And so somebody came to me and I went to Jeff and he said Melanie, and I already knew who Melanie was, and we scattered out and found her and brought her to that room, and they went from there.
We really do try to play matchmaker and make sure that nobody's left without direction and nobody's left without the worst possible outcome for me personally, and I think I can speak for Meredith and Randy on this too, is if somebody shows up and has a bad time because nobody was nice to them. This is a very, very friendly community. It's full of sensitive people. It's full of assholes too, but it's full of sensitive people, and we try to make sure that the assholes are nice and sensitive people. And part of the fun of all of this is working with people that you've never met before, working with people who come from a different background than you, people who have a different life perspective than you. And we really do get all different types of folks at the Hackathon.
This is actually a perfect time to do a little hallway usability test, I guess. So you've heard, I mean, we're posting the project ideas online, so that's one channel to find out about them. There will be some sort of icebreaker to find out about, or presentations to find out about project ideas. We're thinking about possibly having sort of like topical signs around the room where if you care about the environment or transportation or, you know, I don't know, human trafficking, any of those things you can congregate together under that sign to try to come up with ideas. But are there other ways that you would prefer to have that, you know, opportunity presented to you? Please let us know, because we'd love to accommodate whatever you feel like makes the most sense.
Our goal is to make sure that projects are produced too. People have a good time and that people feel comfortable producing.
How big are the teams typically? I'm guessing like 10 people? You said like
A big team is 10 people.
Big teams.
They're usually around 4 to 5 people. I've seen people fly solo or go in pairs. But generally speaking, the teams are about 4 to 6 people.
Sure. And what are the makeups typically of the team? I mean, I'm guessing it's pretty interdisciplinary.
It is. Usually there's at least one software developer on each team. Although there doesn't have to be. There's enough like prototyping tools out there. And you're a software developer, so you probably don't have to worry too much about that. But there's usually at least one developer on the team. Hopefully there's a designer on the team. We had a team of 10 people on the human trafficking project, and I think 9 of them were designers. So it was a really beautiful project. But generally speaking, it's helpful to have a subject matter expert as well, somebody who can help the engineers prioritize what's most impactful. Because even if it doesn't look good, even if it doesn't work completely right, if you're tackling the right problem, that's really what's most important. You can tackle, we had some really cool, we've had so many apps, maybe like half a dozen so far, that have helped filter out health inspections, like health restaurant inspections, to make sure that like restaurants are up to code. You can filter by cuisine, like what's the cleanest Vietnamese restaurant, or what's the cleanest, you know, you name it, Italian restaurant. But that's not really that useful. You know, it's cool, don't get me wrong, and I think the people who built it are awesome. But when the mayor sees that, it's like, oh, that's cool. But if you build something that helps them estimate flooding impact, or if you know, if you're working on things that help them, you know, respond to 311 requests faster, or help get citizens information, their ears really perk up for stuff like that. And subject matter experts, people from the city, can help you prioritize those really fast.
So, I guess I'm going to number one. What about food, water, and all that kind of stuff? Is 24
You're on your own. We provide it all.
I'm just saying, how does that work? Because some, you know, you're 24 hours, you're probably gonna burn your hair there.
Yeah, no, that's a
Do you
great
rate our
question.
food?
I'm sorry that we didn't answer that. We provide all the food, all the water, all the snacks. and it's free.
Okay, then I guess the other question was, what, because you were talking about that, they look at data, are there any tips along those lines? What do they look for? I mean, what are winning concepts like?
Good question. So the way in which the judges score and weigh the projects is a combination of a couple of things. One is, how ambitious is your project? Are you doing something big or are you doing something small? If you're looking at, you know, I don't know, something that's inconsequential for the city, everything's consequential, so I don't want to pick on any one thing. But if you pick a small idea, that works against you. But they also score how far you've gotten. So if you pick a small idea but you hit it out of the park, that can make up for tackling a big idea and only getting one step down the line. They gauge your presentation, so how well put together is your presentation, and the projected impact. Like, what is it going to be? So it could be a really ambitious idea with very little impact, or it could be a really simple idea with a really huge impact. They try and weigh all of those things, so that way the choice of your project matters quite a bit, as well as how far you're able to get.
Just kind of follow up on that one.
Sure.
What level of completion did the project, so for example, the rollout app, was that on the App Store and it was like part of their demo was go download the app?
That would be amazing if the App Store worked that fast. No, so the rollout demo was a functional app. It was an iPhone app. We had to like download it, you know, physically.
Sure.
But I think he had a minimum viable product. I think he had push notifications set up, and he had the geolocation piece done. So you could automatically query the web service with your latitude and longitude and pull back your schedule. I don't think he had any web interface done.
Was I direct them as well to DevPost?
Oh yeah, that's right. So if you go to, or if you Google Houston Hackathon DevPost, you'll pull up previous years, and you can kind of scroll through the projects and see what won, what didn't win, stuff like that.
This is a good one. Whoa, there's the good one over to the right.
Oh, your HPD? Yeah, this is one that he worked on. So you can get a better sense. So yeah, he had it fully designed. Yeah. Now I will say that with that app in particular, they had another 40 or so hours of development on top of it in order to make it ready for the literal rollout. And the city actually hired that developer to develop a web version of rollout so that people could query online. Yeah. So DevPost is definitely where to go to kind of see the projects moving forward. It's a lot of information.
All the
It's
data
something-
and stuff, like you need a lot of data. Does the hackathon team provide you with all of that?
Good question. So if you go to data.ohouston.org, this is the City of Houston's open data portal in which the CSS doesn't load, apparently. But if you go to data sets, you can pull up about 250 different data sets that the city collects. This is also mirrored on a site which is much prettier called data.world. And so if you look for City of Houston, you can see a lot of these same data sets. So while we love working with City of Houston data, they don't always provide us with a lot of data. They're going to refresh the data sets that they currently have on that portal with current information. But there's county data, there's state data, there's all sorts of really interesting stuff. And you can also take a data set like crime data and make it intersect with an unrelated data set like weather data, and start to get a better sense of like what happens when it rains, or what happens when it's really hot out for a period of time. Stuff like that's really fun. You know, how is transit impacted, transit times impacted when it's a heat wave in Houston? You know, there's all sorts of cool ideas. And if there's data that you want to see, you can request it on that open data portal as well. And they legally have to respond to you. Any other questions? Yes.
If a developer gets stuck at some point, like you have an idea, it's not like get stuck at an idea, you need additional resources to help you get through it. Is there like a point you contact?
That's a good question. I think that, so a couple of things. One is, when you're in an environment like the hackathon, it's hard to get stuck on an idea because you walk around and you see, 30 other teams kind of buzzing with activity, and you go, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna figure this out. And maybe you pivot, maybe you try something else. But for the most part, I would say at least 80% of the teams finish the hackathon. In terms of technical support, absolutely. You can post on Slack like, I'm working in Python, I'm stuck. Are there any Python developers who know, who can help me with this? I'm in this room. And certainly people can come to the rescue for that technical support. But in terms of the overall project idea and like, is it gonna work or is it not gonna work? That kind of stuff, sometimes it doesn't work. And in those instances, I would absolutely, if a team falls apart at midnight, don't leave and don't come back, join another team. Other teams definitely need help. And sometimes they're stuck without developers or without designers, or they just need somebody to tell them that it's good.
We'll try to have, I guess, on Slack, on the Hackathon channel, the volunteers communicating that and letting people know what roles are needed where throughout the event. We'll have some way of keeping you connected.
Okay, so, is there a team moderator or anything like that, or they just come together?
They just come together. There's no decentralized. We have a code of conduct for Sketch City, which is available on our GitHub. So there's certain basic ways of behaving and operating that we expect, and that if people violate, we reserve the right to kick them out. But I think that everybody here should be okay with that.
Has anyone tried to complete a project before the hackathon and make it seem like they
Yes, in fact, that has happened before. There was somebody who came a couple of years ago with a startup idea, and that they had built it, and then they tried to get it worked on at the hackathon. And we told them they were happy they can totally work on it, but they just can't present it. So, because we have 30 different teams presenting, if somebody's working on something elsewhere, and or it's their startup idea and they're trying to find developers for it or something, it's probably not appropriate. What we do ask is if you've been working on it ahead of time, that you only present what you did at the hackathon. And it can be built on the stuff that you did before, and you can say, I did all this before here, and then but you showcase what you actually built. Any other questions? Are y'all gonna come to the hackathon? Okay, all right, good.
How many people came last year?
How many people came last year? Over 200. Yeah. It goes up and down. In our worst year, I think it was our second year, we did it the same weekend as Free Press. We had about 150 people. And our best year, I think, was the year before last, and we had over 400 people. So it really it depends on the weekend. But in general, there's enough people to get lost in the crowd.
Any technology can be used, or it has to be open source?
That's a great question. Any technology can be used. We encourage you to open source it. We don't get involved with team disputes. We don't get involved if one person says, I'm keeping this code and it's mine, and F you guys. It's not our problem. So, what we encourage you, when you start a team, everybody agrees, hey, we're going to use open source technologies and we're going to keep it open source. That means that everybody has a fair shot that if they want to commercialize it, they can keep it open source. The chances of something getting commercialized out of the hackathon is very low. But it's really up to you. If you wanted to fly solo and work on something just for yourself and not open source it, that's your prerogative. We also Esri really wants people to build stuff in Esri. So if you all want to do stuff with Esri software, which is mapping stuff, they give us a ton of free stuff.
I was just gonna ask what the setup is like at HTC. Do they have like long tables, or are you sitting on the floor?
Oh yeah. So there's a couple of big rooms, about the size the main room is about the size of this room and the room opposite us here that's divided. So imagine about twice the size of this room. That holds about 150 to 200 people. And that's where we have our presentations and whatnot. We break those up into long tables for people to work. And then there's also usually about 15 other rooms of various sizes. Some of them hold one team, like 5 to 7 people. Some of them can hold 2 teams, maybe 15 or 20 people. And those are scattered throughout the complex. So Houston Technology Center is 2 buildings of 3 floors each, connected by a skyway. And different rooms are available each year. So you can basically go stake out a territory and get comfortable. There's Wi-Fi throughout, there's free food, and it's pretty easy to lose track of time, especially if you're the type of person that doesn't want a window, because there's some caves in there.
Neeraj just asked on Slack, how do we get access to subject matter experts?
That's a good question. So you should come to the Hack Nights for sure, because we bring them here. So the other question to answer, the first question is what skills do you have? So you have to have that on the tip of your tongue. I don't think I ever went into that other question, which is what do you care about? Which is a really hard question to answer. When we first started Sketch City, I asked everybody that question. And some people have an answer and some people don't. I would say get an answer to that. And if you tell us, Neeraj, me, Meredith, Randy, we will go find those people and bring them to the hackathon. We have enough leverage that if one public health official can't make it, the next one will. If you care about criminal justice in particular, we have some good ties into the criminal justice community here in Houston. Anything that the city does, so if you look at city departments, and you say, oh, well, Public Works does this, and I think that's really cool, like, we will pull people from that department in to talk to you. So hopefully that answers your question, Neeraj. Basically, you'll help yourself. All right, well, consider it an open door. If you have any questions about the hackathon, just let us know. We're happy to help. We'd love to see you there. And even if you feel like you don't have any skills, come to our workshops. Learn how to scrape data off the web. Lord knows we're going to need it with this president. So, come to our web scraping workshop, and you will definitely have some skills there. It's a great hackathon project just to put together data sets. So thank you all very much for coming. We're just going to do some open working for the next 45 minutes or so, and then we shut down at 8 sharp. So thank you all so much.
One of our online viewers has a question.
Yes.
They ask, what should I bring to the hackathon? Is a laptop necessary?
Good question. I would say yes, a laptop is necessary, but it's not. We've had people bring their desktop. Yeah. I think a laptop is pretty critical, but if you don't want to do anything on the computer, you can literally spend the entire hackathon without a computer. You can be helping people get water. You can be helping project manage. You can just come by and check it out for a couple of hours. But I do think that bringing a laptop makes a lot of sense. I'd also say bring stuff that makes you comfortable. Wear comfortable clothes. If you need to hydrate, bring extra water. We'll have plenty, but bring some yourself. If you have dietary restrictions, don't expect that we're going to know, or we're going to have gluten-free stuff. If you park on the street, remember to feed the meter. I'm basically telling you all the things that people have complained about in the past. So really just use your common sense and know that we spend about $5,000 on this event, and it's all free for you. We raise that money from corporations, and we try to make everything as painless as possible. It's never completely painless, so we always appreciate it when you appreciate it. Any other online questions?
Is there any whiteboards there?
Yes. There's whiteboards in certain conference rooms, and we also bring the easel pads and markers. So every team has access to written equipment, but if you really want that, you should bring it yourself so that you're not fighting for it.
So bring kind of sticky notes and stuff like that.
Totally. Yes?
Being a 24-hour event, is it a sign of weakness to need some sleep?
No, not at all. I'd say maybe 10 to 20% of the participants stay overnight, a small percentage. There's a lot of people, so I'm 38 years old, I can't stay up all night, that ruins my life. You know, I gotta go to bed at like 1 or 2 in the morning and get up at 6 or 7 in the morning. I can't go on fumes, and I think that's fine. So, some people really, really like to hit their stride at night, and we like to make that an option for them, but most people go out.
All the work happens within the Houston Technology Center?
For the most part, teams are allowed to work remotely, but you do, in order to be considered for the hackathon, you do have to be in the Houston Technology Center at the time of the presentations.
So
you
let's
do-
say you wanna go home like 8 to 10 or something and
And
back in
work.
the morning.
Totally. Lots of good questions. These are tactical things. This is good to know. Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate it. Judith, did you have a question?
I'm just gonna say, I posted several ideas, on the GitHub, and I can't, how does this work? Do I pick one that I make a presentation on? Or do I just, listen, to what other people present and just see if somebody else adopts one of those ideas?
That's a good question. So putting it on the GitHub is critical because as people start to discover the hackathon, which happens over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to start to see the RSVPs go up. We have about 150 RSVPs right now, so we're probably on track for 200 or 300. They're going to go to the ideas repo and they're going to look at those ideas, and if something looks good, they're going to chime in on it, and you'll get an email notification. So putting it out there is like planting seeds that potentially will grow with collaborators. If there's something that you in particular want to do and nobody has chimed in at the day of the hackathon, that's your opportunity to pitch that idea. And if you want to spearhead that team, we will help find people for it. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.